Welcome back. Today we're diving into a brand new explainer, and we've got an absolutely fascinating, incredibly vivid subject to unpack for you. We're going to deconstruct a deeply multi-layered nightmare. You know, dreams can often just feel like random static, right? But occasionally, your subconscious mind constructs an experience so rich in its architecture and its raw motion that it literally demands a closer look. So let's walk step by step through this terrifying nocturnal descent. I want you to take just a quick second and recall the sensory terror of your own worst nightmares. You know the ones I'm talking about, right? Where the air just feels impossibly thick, the whole environment is swallowed by this pitch black darkness, and every single direction you turn seems to pulse with an inescapable sense of dread. Well, our source material today thrusts us directly into that exact kind of visceral experience. It's a dream defined by complete isolation, a terrifying lack of control, and a literal physical plunge right into the dark. Okay, let's dive into this. The dreamer's journey is a literal downward spiral mapped out in 4 steps. First, exposed Roman ruins, then transitioning into a cold concrete room, fleeing down a spiral staircase, and finally arriving in a twisted first-floor living room. This physical downward journey perfectly mirrors a psychological descent right into the deepest parts of the subconscious mind. Moving into Part 1, Roman Ruins and Dark Fear.
This very first stage of the nightmare sets a tone of bizarre, absolute isolation. The dreamer abruptly finds themselves standing in a place that looks exactly like ancient Roman ruins. Just imagine the scene for a second. You've got these stacked stone pillars, but there's absolutely no roof and no walls. It is a completely exposed, vulnerable space. And despite that lack of a ceiling, there are no stars above. It's just a pitch-black, suffocating night environment. Standing in this dark, open-air ruin completely strips away any sense of modern safety.
That brings us to Part 2, multiplying cursed dolls. Now, it turns out the dreamer isn't truly alone in these ruins, which instantly turns this space into a gripping psychological thriller. Scattered all across the ground are these creepy, human-like figures, traditional Japanese toys, and cursed dolls from all over the world. But here is where the dream logic becomes genuinely terrifying. These objects are reactive. Whenever the dreamer tries to fall asleep or even just fiercely glares at their surroundings, the dolls mysteriously start multiplying. And this brilliantly illustrates the horrific realism of the dream. Underneath this dim, eerie lighting, the figures don't just sit there like normal toys. They move. The dreamer experiences this incredibly vivid, highly realistic physical sensation of these human-like toys grabbing their feet and touching their back. Talk about a profound violation of personal space. The nightmare completely transcends visual fear here and becomes entirely tactile, forcing the dreamer into a state of absolute skin-crawling panic. Which leads into Part 3, the inescapable underground spiral staircase. Driven by this desperate need to escape all those grabbing hands, the ancient stone suddenly transforms into a freezing cold concrete room. The dreamer flees down a dark corner staircase, but of course it offers zero safety. The steps are totally littered with the debris of childhood, discarded stuffed animals, broken toys, that sort of thing. And attempting to hide in this wreckage is just futile. The unseen terrorists find them even there, grabbing at their feet from the dark, forcing them to just keep descending further and further down. Now we reach Part 4, the living room turned morgue. Reaching the absolute bottom of that staircase, we transition from abstract terror into something way more intimate. The dreamer emerges into a first-floor living room, but the domestic familiarity is completely warped. The room is incredibly heavy with the eerie, still atmosphere of a funeral waiting room. Right in the center is a simple bed, and lying face up on it is the dreamer's father, dressed in the traditional robes of a Buddhist monk. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the jarring contrast between the morbid expectation of the room and the actual physical reality. The dreamer understandably feels this massive wave of sadness, totally believing their father has passed away, given the whole morgue-like setting. But then, the dreamer pushes the bed with their foot, and it moves. Lowering it, they make a genuinely shocking discovery. The father's body is still warm. The dream abruptly shifts from these horrific, grabbing hands in the dark to the undeniable, tactile warmth of life. Bringing us to our final section, Part 5, Father's Words and Lingering Regret. Realizing their father is warm, the dreamer asks a very simple question. Are you still alive? And this brings us right to the emotional climax of the whole explainer. Lying there on the morgue bed, the father replies, "Still alive. I'm alive until today." It is a chilling yet strangely comforting statement, isn't it? It confirms life, but with a deeply haunting boundary. Until today. Hearing this, a profound emotional shift happens within the dreamer. They don't break down crying. They don't panic. Instead, they put on this stoic mask. They conceal their deep sadness and simply reply, "I see. Understood." But internally, as they leave that quiet room and abruptly wake up from the dream, they are just crushed by this massive heavy weight, the sudden realization that there are so many things left undone. So the crucial point is this. The ultimate terror of this nightmare absolutely wasn't the pitch black darkness. It wasn't the cold, ruined architecture, and it certainly wasn't those creepy multiplying dolls grabbing at their ankles. No, all of those were just the mind's defense mechanisms. They were the terrifying barriers built to guard the most painful truth at the very bottom of the subconscious. The true nightmare was this profound, quiet feeling of regret, the very real fear of running out of time with a loved one, and the agonizing weight of things left unsaid and undone. Our source material really takes us on a fascinating journey, showing how our minds use classic horror tropes to process deep, unresolved emotional pain. And I think it leaves us with an incredibly powerful reflection on our own waking lives. Think about it. When you finally wake up from the dark and step out of your own nightmares, what are the things left undone that are waiting for you in the light? Thank you so much for exploring this remarkable descent with us today. Until next time, keep questioning what lies beneath the surface.